In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about some installation practices, like where to put those daggone grills, and is one location too much of a compromise compared to some others. But we'll just touch on this briefly and we'll revisit it again in the future. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple clicks at supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the U.S. Need help with an order? Get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team and talk to a real person every time. Supplyhouse.com. I did HVAC installation for a long time, and I still did installs after I started my company, although it was less frequent. But coming up, especially working for my father, I did installs every single day. New construction, change outs, and some commercial stuff. And you get to see how things work once they're put into practice. It never is quite what you think it's going to be, especially at that age. You don't really know how stuff is designed. So you just go up there and say, yeah, this one's getting a lot of air. And that is your official diagnosis on how well it's doing. So the first thing I want to talk about is grills. Residential grills for supply and return. Now, we won't talk about the type of grills, but we're going to talk about something called stratification. And this is what happens when there's a layer of air, a certain temperature that just, for our purposes here, it settles in the wrong spot. Let's talk about putting your grills in the ceiling. Your supply registers are in the ceiling. A lot of times we'll see bi-flow grills where you have section of fins going this way, sections of fin going this way, and that's all you get. You don't get to change it, you don't get to adjust them. We used a lot of aluminum grills as well where you could adjust them, but most of the time, at least for builders, you got the fixed grills that were the cheapest because they're builders. And we put returns in. Now, if you put a return in the ceiling, that's beneficial in this particular instance because these grills are throwing cold air toward the floor, and cold air settles at the floor. You have your warm air rising. So that return grill being up high is at least causing some of the air to have to lift up and flow off of the floor and circulate air. Even if it draws hot air, it's going to cause turbulence, which causes the air to stir a little bit and causes a little bit less stratification where you don't have a bunch of cold air on the floor. Then when you get to head level and above, it's noticeably warmer, which is not something that you want. If you have more than one return, a lot of times back in the day, we'd install one return, so it would minimize that benefit. But nowadays, people are doing high-performance homes. They're trying to get return air from more locations, and you can actually make quite a difference by putting multiple return grills in the right spot. Now, if you put one, let's say you put it in the floor. A lot of old houses that we did had floor grills. We always hated those because, first of all, you'd step on them and dirt would fall off into the grill. And as much as you say, let's not step on this grill, hey, we'll put a chair over it. Problem solved, except for the grill got half as much airflow. But no dirt, give or take, I guess. Those will pull that air off the floor, and you'll have that stratification throughout your house. Same with the grill and the low sidewall. If you have a low sidewall return, it's not going to cause that air to stir as much as you would want it to. Air will settle to the floor, then flow to the return. It's always nice to have the return location complement the supply location, so you're not having issues as far as stratification of the air. Now, another thing that would come up is grill location in a room. What I found, and you guys can give me some feedback on this, that if it's a relatively small room, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter until you get to a much larger room. Like if you have a closet or something, and we did put small grills in closets, you can damper them down, because typically 4 was the smallest duct that we ran, but you can damper them down so the closet doesn't get moldy and damp. And a lot of times if there's no air flowing into a room, it just gets kind of stuffy and uncomfortable. So it's nice to have that little bit of air, but you have to make sure it's a little bit because a closet may only need 10 CFM of output. But if you have a much larger room, let's say you have your large master bedroom, it has 2 large windows in it. We'll imagine it's a rich man, has 2 large windows and 2 8-inch ducts running to the outer windows, and it has a couple boots in the ceiling throwing air down. Now, you might have a significant difference, plus you may have a return in this room, if you put your grills on the inside wall instead of the outside wall. Sometimes you have to do that based on how the architecture of the building is laid out. Sometimes we'd have beams in the way where you can't run a duct all the way to the outside. You can always go for a mini split there, but then the price of those compared to just dunking a couple grills on the inside is quite different. But you may have issues with the heat load because that solar radiation and heat load is at the windows. And if someone spends a significant time in the daytime in their bedroom, which may or may not occur, they may notice a big difference and complain about it. So grill placement is pretty important. Now you can always direct air with different types of registers, and you should get acquainted with that. A lot of times we get stuck in a rut. We're going to pick this type of register. We use it for every house. And you can use different registers. You can use ones where the fins are throwing things out into the room, all in one direction long ways. You can get the biflow. You can get aluminum that adjust one way or adjust the other way. There's these scoops they always put on there, but I don't like those near as much because it's ugly, frankly. It's not aesthetically pleasing. But there are a lot of options for that. If you want to get more airflow out of grills, you can end up using the aluminum ones. I think the model number was R1VM. And I do not remember if that's Hart and Cooley or what, but I think it was R1VM, and they had a lot less restriction than these biflow steel grills. If you look at them, you're like, it looks like most of this thing is being blocked. And when you have that biflow, you're splitting the air, but you're also kind of restricting the air as well. And the aluminum ones don't seem to do that as much. You can look up that information in the grill catalog. It's all readily available online. And it's a way to increase airflow when your hands are tied behind your back. You can't change duct size. You can do that on the return side with the grill. You can do it on the supply side. And it may make a little bit of difference, enough that your homeowner notices it and it solves your problem for a much more reasonable price than adding some AC somewhere else or doing something monstrous to the house. But I hope this helps. Just a little bit of grill talk, sexy grill talk with Zach. Zack HVAC Shop Talk. All right, God bless you guys. I'll see you on the next one.
Save 8% off your order at TruTechTools.com by using the Shop Talk discount code.